Hey everyone, CPO here, and in this video we're going to install something really simple, but if you've never done it before, it might be sort of a challenge to figure out how to get started. So I've already kind of started. I'm kind of cheating because I wasn't planning on doing a video, but then changed my mind halfway through. But we'll catch you up to speed. But my buddy Ryan bought this rear brake light off of Amazon. It's an LED brake light. You might have seen my DIY video on how to make one of these from several years ago, before you could buy them like this on Amazon. Now it's probably a lot cheaper just to buy them like this, a lot simpler. Basically comes with a single pigtail wire that you're going to tap into your existing brake light circuit. I'll show you how I'm doing that. And all I've done so far is unscrew the 1, 2, 3, 4 screws on the back of this to pull it down, and then unplug the wiring harness from this brake light and pull the tire off. That's all I've done so far. We're going to do everything from outside the Jeep like this, so come on in and I'll show you what I'm doing. All right, so on he has an existing backup camera set up right here, so we're going to sort of interface with that. And this has a variety of holes that will align with probably different models of vehicles. So we found the one that aligns with his bolt pattern, but also gets this wire up near the top. And the reason I want it up near the top is so that I can run it along this existing run from the camera. So that puts me right here. And then with this plugged back in and back up, that's going to put me connecting in right around this range. So I can always add length to this wire, or I can just take advantage of whatever length is here. There's pros and cons to both, but since it's long enough to reach the wire we're trying to tap into, which is for the rear brake light, I'm going to make that tap right about here. All right, so I'm going to unplug this, set it aside, and then again I'm looking to tap in somewhere right around in here. So carefully, without cutting the wires, I want to get access to them. So I just basically slit that sheathing. So we're going to tap in right here, and I'm going to do it using what's called a military splice. But basically, there's several ways to do this. You can use a T-tap, where you crimp it on, and then your wire gets crimped in there, or you can do the way I'm going to do it, which is a splice. So the way I'm going to do this, and by the way, there's no power coming to this because the brake's not on, but you know, always try and be careful with your power. So I'm going to cut these sheaths, but not the actual cable itself. So that becomes a little bit challenging if you've never done it before. The results of going too far and cutting the wire have very little impact, because then you can just do a standard sort of splice. But what I'm doing is shaving this just down to the wire, and what I'm doing here is exposing this wire by getting rid of the sheath without cutting it. There we go. So there we go. I've exposed that wire, and I'll show you why that matters here in a second. I'm going to go ahead and do the other wire in the same location. So this white wire with a red stripe is the positive wire, and the black one is the ground. So when we wire the LEDs up, we're going to wire them in a similar fashion. All right, there we go. I have now both the positive wire and the ground wire exposed. If you lose a strand or two in the process, it's not that big of a deal. Just try and keep the bulk of the wires together. Now what I'm going to do is use this little punch, and I'm just going to separate these and make a hole in the middle. Just like that. All right, so I'm going to reset this up here just for a test fit, and then we're going to, before I start bolting everything down and finalizing, just test the connections. So remembering that the black is ground, on this particular light setup, it's got a red striped one and a plain clear one. The clear one is going to be the ground, so I'm just going to slip that through there and just sort of gently tie it, and then that one's going to go through the positive side, and then now we can test it. So I'm going to go press on the brake and we'll see if this lights up. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna cry. Yeah? Sweet. All right, so now that I've tested it, I know it works. What I want to do is prepare the final install of this. Now these are held in with these little retaining clips. Same thing you'd find on your wheel, your brake rotors. We're gonna pull these off and slip this on, and then put them back on there, and that'll just keep it stabilized. Getting things off is sometimes a pain. Once I get them spinning, that helps. It's easier to get them off by breaking them, but I'd like to try and reuse them, so. Normally I would just, if I wasn't going to reuse them, I'd just take a pair of pliers and just twist them off. Which is usually how you take them off, but there we go. By the way, if you don't have one of these aftermarket cameras, you probably won't even have these, so. Or you may have a camera and still not have these. But this particular vehicle does have, so we're just going to hang on to them. So if you get to this point and you don't see these, hey, you're done with that step. Let's see if I can get it to twist. Be careful though, because this will cut your fingers if you're not careful. Yeah, it's gonna twist off. Okay. All right, so just because I want to reuse these, I'm going to flatten them back out a little bit. So when we push them back on, they'll hold. So now I can reset this up in here, up in here, up in here to find out which hole they're on. There we go. And then I just want to make sure that I don't have anything interfering with those wires, and that's not bad. What happens if I have that there? That's not bad. And so there's a couple ways I can handle this. I can either try and fit it into this existing loom, which is pretty tight, or just run this along with it. I mean, all of this stuff is exposed anyway, so it's not like protecting this one little 5-inch section is going to make that big of a deal. And then what we'll do is we'll zip tie it to the loom. So I think that's good there. So now that I have that in place, I'm literally just going to push these right back on. And socket. This is the same socket I use to run the lug nuts. All right, so that now that is held and nice and tight. So that's kind of cool. Even if you don't have these to mess with for your install, the light doesn't come with them, but you can go get them from any auto parts store, and it does kind of help hold everything nice and stable when you don't have your tire on. So that's kind of cool. All right, so now what I'm doing, this already had a fairly good length of wire sticking out, so I'm just twisting it up, but this is about the length I would want to work with anyway. So what I'd like to do here now is, again, the clear sheath goes with the black, and I'm going to run it through like threading a needle, and then pull it up tight, and then I'm going to run tight around one side and then flip over and then just wrap it around underneath until it's tight. So just like that, and basically what that did is as I tighten it down, it compresses that hole back down, but with the wire sandwiched in between. So same thing on this one, goes through, pull it, and then one's going to go over the top, and then after that I'm going to switch and then wrap it from the bottom side. Pull it nice and tight, and then just wrap it till you're out of wire. And that turns out to be a very strong mechanical connection, and is as effective as soldering the joint. So if you're not a big solderer, this is a great way to do it. This is the way a lot of stereo and alarm system installers add wires to existing wire runs, and it works really well. So now what we want to do is protect this electrical tape, and I recommend using a liquid electrical tape, which is a liquid sealant. The only real issue you have here is you've now broken this sheath and exposed this to potential corrosion, I guess, if you wanted to like think of all the downsides of doing it this way. So using, making sure you get a good seal with electrical tape will minimize that as much as possible. All right, so this is liquid electrical tape. This bottle lasts a long time. And basically what it is, it's literally liquid electrical tape. It's just a liquid sealant that dries and has both a moisture and electrical sort of protectant. So all I'm doing now is just coating that joint with this compound that's going to dry into like a rubbery type seal. The downside of using liquid electrical tape is you have to let it dry, but that's okay. All right, we'll let that dry now. So this is dried, and what we're going to do now is tape this connection. So the plan is to run this along, it's a little wrap, along the existing wire run, tape it, and then we're going to zip tie it to further secure it mechanically. So I'm just going to take a strip of tape and start it a little bit higher. Stretching as I go. Alright, so I taped that connection. So we're basically double securing it electrically with tape and the liquid sealant. All right, now that I've got that done, I'm gonna run tape across the entire stretch of both of them. All right, just like that. Next, take a small zip tie. And put it around the bottom where the two wires now lay on top of one another. And that gives a mechanical connection, so if you pull on it, it's not pulling on the joint, it's just pulling on this zip tie. The biggest pair of pliers I could find to cut that. Alright, I'm going to try and push this up into that loom as best I can. Which is not a lot, but good enough. This can get plugged back into here. That. That's going to get re-screwed in. This is a T20, by the way. Torx. Alright. I'm going to run a little bit of electrical tape around this. Not necessarily for protection, partly to secure it and just partly to conceal it. The black, I think, looks better. We have barely enough room here for that. Then zip ties on each end. There we go. Alright, just making sure that there's no wires sort of bound up anywhere, pressed against anything that would cut it or chafe it. That's got lots of freedom of movement there. Let's go press the brake and see if it works. Hallelujah! Hallelujah! All right, one more test. All right, so that's it. How to add in a third brake light, awesome LED spare tire kit. There's probably about a million ways to do this. This is the method I choose. I think it's super simple, allows you to keep your existing upper light, which is one of the requirements my customer had. That's funny. Ryan did want to make sure that this light still worked while adding that, so that's why we tapped into it. If you didn't want to use this light, or you wanted to get rid of it altogether, let's say you had a bigger tire that covered it up anyway, then it would have actually been a lot easier, because we just cut the connector up where we unplug this, and then just directly, fuse them together. But we did the T-tap method because he did want to keep both sets of lights running. So anyway, that's it. Yeah, I guess I'll catch you on the next one.